So you're thinking of moving to Tennessee and really want to know what the cost of housing is? Not just the cost to buy the house, but all the costs involved with housing? Well, I just closed a house today, so why don't I just share with you the exact cost that goes into buying a home, all the fees, all the expenses, beyond the purchase price when you're buying a home in Nashville, Tennessee. Wherever you're coming from, costs are quite different between the tax stamps and the title costs and who pays what and what's customary and what's not customary. You don't want to lose money by not knowing, do you? Come on, let's go talk about it. What's up? This is Susan Thetford with the Nashville Redefined Show, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. If this is your first time tuning into the show and you want to know all about Nashville, Tennessee, well, I do tons and tons of videos about everything you need to know about living in Nashville, moving to Nashville, and we actually get into a wider range all over the state. This is info you might want to know about. So make sure that you go ahead and tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you will be notified every single time a new show drops, which is every single week. Truly, I get so many calls and emails and texts every single week from people moving to Nashville, and honestly, I really love it. As a native Nashvilleian, I don't mind sharing how wonderful our area is. So if you're thinking about moving or relocating to the Middle Tennessee area, please don't hesitate to go ahead, reach out, call me, text, email, do whatever it takes. Send those smoke signals. I'm not very good at reading them though. Go ahead and reach out to me. It's all good. However you want to reach out to us, we've got your back when moving to Middle Tennessee. But actually, this is late September and it's gotten chilly. Let's go on inside. So welcome to my new office. Actually, I'm just now getting it set up, so excuse, these haven't been hung yet. Lots to do, but if you are going to go ahead and subscribe, you're going to see from the next couple weeks the transformation of my brand new office in my new home in Brentwood. So you are thinking of moving to Nashville area or the Middle Tennessee area. And depending on where you're from, some of our customs of how we do business in real estate, the costs, the fees that are involved with sales of homes may be quite different from your area. So as I have so many people coming from all over the country, California, Texas, Chicago, and New York are the four main ones, I'm finding that they have very different customs in their areas. So the cost of doing business here may be well different than the cost of buying a home and selling a home in your area. It's good to know the customs, it's good to know what to expect when you're buying a home, and it's good to know what the customs are in negotiation to put yourself in the best foot forward when you're competing for a home. And I can tell you right now, competition for homes in certain areas is outrageous. I was in a 10-way bidding war. I actually am this very minute. 10-way bidding war for a home in the right under $500,000 in Franklin. You've got to be ready. You got to have who's someone working on your side who knows the market, and so let's get going. I want to teach you a couple things that will be of importance to you when you're buying a home here. So as I mentioned, I've just finished closing on a home, and this is a $300,000 house. It was right at $290,000. Now, each price point is going to have a little bit different set of fees, but the fee is going to be the same. Wait, what did I just say? Good thing I do my own editing. The category of each transaction is going to have the same, fees. It's going to have the same fee structure, but the dollar figure in each one is going to be different. A $290,000 house has different tax structure than a $1 million house. So, sorry about that. If I hear any more mistakes, I'll let you know. Let's go through it a little bit. I hate talking numbers. I'll try to make it as simple as possible for you, but here are some of the usual and customary fees. Now, when you close, you get what's called an ALTA form. That ALTA form has laid out for you the cost of the sale, both from the seller side and the buyer side. So you know what the seller's proceeds are eventually, and you also know what the buyer's costs are, the money that they need to bring to closing. So let's go through each section of it. First of all, the sales price of the home was $290,000. This was a good little home in a newer development in Williamson County. So it was in the city of Franklin, Williamson County. That is approximately 30 minutes from downtown Nashville. Great spot, good schools. The sales price of this home was $290,000. At contract, at the point of contract, I represented the buyer here, $5,000 of earnest money. So $285,000 more is due at closing. The loan value on this one was $275,500. It was a 95% loan. So the loan is 95%, $5,000 earnest money, sales price of $290,000. So let's talk about some of the prorations, adjustments, different sections of the ALTA form. In Tennessee, taxes are due on in October of the current year. So 2020, we're about to get our tax bills, and they are payable, considered late, in February. So one of the first prorations is the tax proration. The seller owes up until today for this year's portion of the taxes. So those prorations are given to the appropriate parties. My buyer, he's going to get the entire tax bill for this year, but at closing, he was given money for all the way up until this date. It all works out. It's an accounting thing. The loan charges. There was a $500 administration fee, a $595 processing fee, and then prepaid interest from the couple days from now until the end of the month. Prepaid interest on the loan for the new loan. A couple dollars, wasn't much. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other charges. That's the way it's named on the ALTA form. The appraisal was $485. Now again, my buyer paid for that right after we went under contract. We gave the earnest money, went ahead and paid that. We also paid for a credit report, which was $32.16. There was also a $25 employment verification fee, just to verify that he was employed and he still was employed. And they are doing verifications up to the day before closing. So it used to be that they weren't doing those verifications that recently. They do it right before closing now. One last loan charge that is done here in Tennessee, it may not be done in your area, is a flood certification. That charge is $14.50. It is to verify to the borrower and to the lender, the mortgage company, that the property is not in the 100-year floodplain. The next section of an ALTA form will be what they call the impound fees, or the escrow accounts. What that amounts to is 3 months of homeowner's insurance and then 10 months of property taxes, both city and county taxes. One other thing here in Tennessee is some of our areas are incorporated cities. So you could live in Nashville, but inside of Nashville there's a little incorporated city called Belmead. Belmead has its own set of taxes in addition to that because they have their own police force. It just takes knowing whether you're buying into an area that has its own set of taxes to know the full set of taxes. In this case, the homeowner's insurance for 3 months worth was $225, and their aggregate taxes were right at $1,000 for 10 months. Those monies are held in escrow. The mortgage servicer actually pays those out monthly. So as you know, when you're getting a mortgage, you have principal and interest, taxes and insurance. Those taxes and insurance monies is what you're paying into to keep refreshing on a monthly basis these impound fees, so that you're never behind on the taxes or insurance. So the next set of charges, or the next set of section of the ALTA form, is the title coverage. Here in Tennessee, it's usual and customary for the seller to give to the owner an owner's title policy, and then the buyer to be able to get, with simultaneous issue, meaning a much less expensive charge, a mortgagee's policy. Now, if there is a loan, the lender is going to insist on a policy that someone pays for. But I understand in other areas it's quite different. Even in Memphis, Tennessee, I understand that title insurance is generally not paid for by the seller. Here in Middle Tennessee and over to East Tennessee, it is more generally known that it's negotiated in the contract and the seller is expected to pay, but it is a negotiable item for the owner's title policy. In another video, I have talked about what an owner's policy is, what the difference between an owner's policy and the mortgagee's policy. That's important information, but in this case, let's just not bog it down too much. But you can go check on that video. At a $290,000 sales price, $275,000 was essentially the loan value. The title cost to the seller in this case was $495. The seller paid for that. We negotiated that. It is customary. And the seller paid that $495 title fee for the buyer. Are you getting some value from this? I really hope to make buying and selling homes more of a transparent process for people so that you understand what's usual and customary. It's really difficult to walk into a whole new area and not have any idea and try to negotiate things off of what you're used to in your area. It just doesn't, it's going to be really hard for you. So I hope these really are valuable. If so, please go ahead and tap the bell, subscribe. Tell me, have you had any issues when you were here looking at property or in your own state when you were first buying a property? What were things that were problematic for you or that you didn't understand? I'd love to know so that I can help somebody else. Okay, so you know that the government's not going to allow you to come in here and buy a house and not pay any taxes and fees, right? You're right, they're not. So one of the first things you have is recording fees. This property was in Williamson County, so the recording fee is $120. There was a transfer tax of the deed, and that is with the county registrar, and that was $1,074. And there was a transfer tax for the deed of trust to Williamson County again, and that was $315. My understanding again is that these fees are a lot less expensive than they are for those of you in California. So I'm really happy to say you're going to be pretty excited with some of the costs when it comes to purchasing a home here in the Tennessee area. I also have more great news for you. Here in Tennessee, the seller pays commissions. So when it comes to you, the buyer, and looking at your bottom dollar, you're not paying any more money. You're not paying any money to be represented by an agent in the purchase of your home. The selling agent has negotiated with the seller that they are going to market the home, share the home's information, get this information all out to buyers and buyers agents, and then they're going to split commissions that the seller pays. So there's no reason not to be represented. And again, my buyer was really, really happy that they didn't have to pay out $6,400 for commissions. That would make you happy too as a buyer, right? So of course, the people who are actually handling all this work, they put that under miscellaneous fees. Here's something that may be different here in Tennessee than in your hometown. And it was different when I first started in the business way back. But now, buyers and sellers really rarely ever see each other at the closing table, which is what we call it. The day you sign, you get your keys. Money's transferred. They rarely see each other any longer. So the seller is signing all their paperwork in one place, maybe across town, and the buyer signs his paperwork and the loan documents and everything in this place. The money is then funded and needs to be couriered over to these people so that the seller gets their money and can go on their merry way. So there are courier fees and there are different things like that involved with this part of it. The attorney's fee is $475 for my buyer to handle that part of the transaction. The courier fee to get the money from here to there was $40 with the signed deeds and everything. That was $40. Then something else that's a miscellaneous, it just depends on the home you're buying. There may be a homeowners association. If you're buying a home in a homeowners association, then most of the time the homeowners association charges a fee to change the name of the owners and send the bill somewhere else. But they typically charge a fee, and that transfer fee can be anywhere from $250 is the least I've seen, up to $700 is the most I've seen for some of the really, really high-end things. So again, that's typically a buyer's charge, but it could be negotiated in the contract. In this case, there was a homeowners association and that transfer fee was $225. So, with all that in mind, when we got down to it, my buyer had to bring all the settlement charges involved with doing the loan, the appraisal fees and everything. Some had already been paid. There was a total of $13,166 left. Close the sale of the property at the $290,000 sales price. Wow, that's a mouthful. And boy, is it boring to watch when you're talking numbers and numbers and numbers. But I hope those numbers and numbers do help you in making a comparison in your hometown and when you move here to Tennessee. I find that people are often surprised that there are charges. There's a cost to buying that loan, to getting that loan, that can be bought down with points. There's a lot that goes into it. Finding a trusted lender, finding a trusted team of people you can work with to get a good faith estimate and know what you're getting into is paramount. If you are considering buying a home and maybe you're selling something at the $700 price point where you come from and you're thinking I'll put about that same amount of money into a new home in Nashville or in Franklin or in Brentwood, any of the areas that we work, then please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to, basically pick a house that's at that same price point, get the taxes, get all the information that you would need so a good faith estimate could be made for you and gives you a better idea of exactly what those out of mind kind of costs might be for you. When you get here, I don't want the massive surprises. I don't want any kind of shock to go on. I want to be able to help you in knowing all the information that you need to know to make some informed decisions for yourself, for your family, and not be surprised by some of these gotchas. Now that you know how much money it's going to cost, you might want to know what are some of the best neighborhoods. What do I recommend as some of the best neighborhoods in Davidson County? Show you Brentwood, show you Franklin and Williamson County. I'm adding new videos all the time to this show, and I want to keep you informed. So subscribe, like the button, or tap the bell, like the button. Do what it takes. Give me a call, email me. You've got my text, you've got all this information down there. Go ahead and reach out to me. If you have any questions about things you would like me to talk about here in the Nashville area, and yeah, that's the Batman building, right there, over my shoulder. You got questions, I got answers. Put them down here in the comments. Talk to you next week.